The NBA world gave up on these 4 players. They have officially been blacklisted from the NBA and are nowhere to be found in it. What went wrong, and where are they in 2023? Kemba Walker was a 4-time All-Star and one of the best point guards in the NBA. In 2020, he was a key player on the Boston Celtics team where he averaged 20 points per game. But now, in 2023, Kemba is going to be playing overseas in Europe. In the 2019 free agency, Kemba was a part of a sign and trade to the Boston Celtics for Terry Rozier. His first year in Boston was pretty good. He was adjusting to a new environment and ended up making the All-Star team as the second option. However, Kemba would miss 10 games in the regular season due to a knee injury. Nothing too bad at the time. In the bubble playoffs, Kemba struggled big time. He didn't look like himself and it looked like the knee injury was still bothering him. The Celtics would end up losing to the Heat in 6 games. The 2021 season was a disaster season for Kemba Walker. He was constantly injuring his knee and missing large chunks of the season and only played 43 games that year. He was also making $35 million a year. With Kemba always being injured, the Celtics struggled a lot throughout the year and never got into a groove. In the playoffs, they would lose to the Brooklyn Nets. A couple weeks later, Kemba and a first-round pick was traded to the OKC Thunder for Al Horford. Kemba was then waived by the Thunder and they didn't waive back. He would then get picked up by the New York Knicks and started the season off rough. He was having career low numbers and 18 games in the season Kemba was benched. Kemba was too small and was a liability on defense. He was not the floor general the Knicks needed and Kemba and Tibbs did not see eye to eye on many things. Kemba played a couple more times throughout the year but was never put into a consistent role. The Knicks were used to make him a 6th man and gave up on him. They would not bring him back next season and Kemba was a free agent. No team gave him a call and Kemba was blackballed from the NBA. In November, the Mavericks would give Kemba a 2-way contract. On the Mavs, Kemba had some good moments but overall his comeback was very underwhelming. Kemba would be waived 3 weeks later and only played 9 games for the Mavs. Kemba just was simply not giving the Mavs enough reason to play him over their young players. Now in 2023, Kemba is going to play overseas and I really hope he finds a new home over there. Just a couple of seasons ago, Hassan Whiteside led the NBA in block shots. Go back a few more years and Hassan was a star on the Miami Heat. In Hassan's earlier days in the NBA, he had a huge ego. Lots of teams hated how bad his ego was and Hassan was out of the NBA. Hassan was forced to play overseas and played in China. After playing overseas for a couple of years, Hassan would be given another shot at the NBA. The Miami Heat would give Hassan a G League contract and bring him up to the NBA for 1 game, and in that 1 game, Hassan went crazy. The Heat kept him in the lineup for the rest of the year. Next season, Hassan Whiteside got even better. He went from 14 points to 17 and he was at the top of the list when it came to most improved player. That offseason, Hassan had earned himself a huge bag. After getting that bag, Hassan struggled to keep up with the better centers in the NBA like Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid. Versatility in big men was also becoming a huge factor in the NBA and Hassan struggled in that department. The Heat also had a young center on their bench showing a lot of promise, that guy being Bam Adebayo. Bam Adebayo was more versatile than Hassan and had the tools of becoming a solid offensive player. Later on in the season, Hassan was being benched for Bam Adebayo in the 4th quarter. Later on in the season, he would lose his starting spot to Bam. This really pissed off Hassan and in the next offseason, he was traded to the Portland Trail Blazers. On the Blazers, Hassan put up some solid numbers but his defense was becoming very overrated among fans. The advanced numbers show that Hassan was a negative defender. The Blazers did not bring back Hassan and next season he only played 35 games for the Kings. His last season in the NBA was with the Jazz. He was the backup center to Rudy Gobert. Hassan's defense and his effort kept getting worse. In 2023, Hassan is playing basketball in Puerto Rico, and he's been putting up some monster numbers over there. He had a game where he dropped 43 points and 19 rebounds. 3 weeks ago, he had another huge game where he dropped 37 points and 16 rebounds. This begs the question, should Hassan be given another chance at the NBA? I'm a strong believer in Hassan giving you a productive 12 to 15 minutes off the bench, but I feel like he's way more happier dominating overseas. Demarcus Cousins has been banned from the NBA and it makes 0 sense. Just a year ago, Cousins was the backup center for the Denver Nuggets. He was giving them great production off the bench. Go back even farther, and Cousins was the best center in the NBA. Boogie was drafted by the Kings with the 5th overall pick. The second he stepped on the court, people knew Boogie was going to be special. He had the size, he had the strength, and he had the agility. Throughout the next couple of years, Demarcus just kept getting better and better. There was one problem that Demarcus Cousins had. He had a bad attitude problem. He was constantly beefing with coaches and always getting in trouble. It got so bad that George Karl tried to get Demarcus traded. In 2016, Cousins would add something to his bag that would completely change his game. He added the 3-point shot. He was taking and making more threes. Demarcus was the perfect modern day center. He would dominate down low and force defenders to step up and guard him at the 3-point line. At the time, the Kings still sucked and Cousins' temper would keep getting the best of him, so the Kings traded Boogie to the Pelicans. Cousins and AD would be the frontcourt of the future. Demarcus helped the Pelicans make the playoffs that year. This is where things got really bad. Demarcus would tear his Achilles tendon. During that offseason, no NBA team wanted to give Cousins the contract he wanted, and he was forced to sign with the Warriors. On the Warriors, Cousins played pretty good. He averaged 16 points per game, but once again, injuries would get the best of him. Next season, he would sign with the Lakers, but before the season even started, DeMarcus would tear his ACL. He got waived a couple months later. He would then join teams like the Rockets, the Clippers, the Bucks, and the Nuggets, but he never lasted more than a couple months. With the Nuggets, he was giving them a productive 15 minutes off the bench and was showing to everyone that he could still play. After his contract was over with the Nuggets, Cousins didn't get any calls. People were saying it was because he still had a bad attitude problem, and that's why no NBA team wanted him. In 2023, he has signed with a team in Puerto Rico and is showing off his skill sets, hoping an NBA team will see what he's doing and give him one last chance. Stephenson was the LeBron stopper. He was the biggest troll. I mean, we are talking about the man who blew in LeBron's ears. He was just built different. He sort of just disappeared from the NBA. In high school, Lance was a superstar, but after going to college, he struggled a little and he would fall to the second round. In his first 2 years in the NBA, Lance struggled to find any minutes. In Lance's 4th year in the NBA, this is where things started looking very good for Lance. He had his best season ever and was labeled the LeBron stopper, but then Lance would make a big time mistake. After losing to LeBron, Indiana would offer Lance a 5-year, $44 million contract, but Lance would turn that down and sign a 3-year, $27 million contract with the Charlotte Hornets. This is where things started getting really bad. Lance was traded to the Clippers 1 year later. 6 months later, he was traded to the Memphis Grizzlies for Jeff Green. Another 6 months passed by and he was traded to the Pelicans and waived. Then he would sign a 10-day contract with the T-Wolves, but injuries would put an end to that opportunity. Then he would find himself back on the Pacers. After 1 season with the Pacers, Lance would create one of the scariest duos in NBA history. Him and LeBron would team up on the Lakers. After 1 year with the Lakers, no NBA team wanted Lance, so Lance decided to play overseas in China. In China, Lance would end up winning MVP for his league. After playing a couple years overseas, Lance would get another shot at the NBA. NBA players were getting sick left and right in 2022. So they needed healthy guys to play. This is where Lance comes in. He would get a 10-day contract with the Hawks and Pacers, and after 4 10-day contracts with the Pacers, Lance was signed to the rest of the season. After finishing up the season, once again, no NBA team wanted him. The latest thing we've heard from Lance is that he signed a contract with a team in Puerto Rico. He didn't last long. After a week at Puerto Rico, he ended up flying home. In the 4 games there, he dropped 29 points, 25 points, 22 points, and 20 points in the 4 games there. I guess as of right now, he's just living life.